and welcome to Comics with Jose. My name is Jose. I love comics and I want to share them with you. Follow me on Twitter at artofjvelez or on Instagram at jvelez622. I share some doodles and drawings as well as a comic book that I'm working on free of charge. Like, follow, and subscribe if you enjoy this. We'll go over comic books that I have and enjoy. However, I do use the digital version for the purposes of this. We kind of review the artwork and the story of comic books that I think are pretty cool and I think people should read and get. Hope you enjoy it. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me. Today we are going to take a look at The Flash, Volume number 2, number 197 from 2003. This is right in the middle of Geoff Johns' amazing run in The Flash. During this time, Wally West is The Flash. Barry Allen at this time was still dead. Longtime readers will know that during the Silver and Bronze Age, Barry Allen was the Flash, but an event in the mid-80s called Crisis of Infinite Earths killed Barry Allen and made Wally West from the Kid Flash to the regular Flash. Geoff Johns took over and did some amazing things. One of the first things he did is he made the Flash's enemies center. He believes that any good hero has to have great villains, and the Flash has great villains like Batman, Spider-Man. That's part of what I think Superman needs. You know, Superman has Lex Luthor, Brainiac. I think he's got Metallo. They created Doomsday, but I mean, Doomsday isn't really a villain. He's just a weapon. Superman, I think, could use a little bit of some fresh upgrades on villains. So, what we're doing here is picking up right in the middle of Geoff Johns' run. So, this is the origin of the new Reverse Flash. He's actually called Zoom. And so we're going to sort of give him the origin. This is a countdown to issue 200. And Blitz was sort of the, at that time, just like I said, he was hitting his peak. Geoff Johns was hitting the peak. And this really was the culmination of everything had been building up to that time. So the kind of just to give you a little bit of what's happened, there was a profiler by the name of Hunter Zolomon who had been severely injured in an attack by Gorilla Grodd. If you watch the Flash TV show or read the comics, Gorilla Grodd is one of the enemies of the Flash. It's an actual gorilla who's telepathic. And Hunter Zolomon had been severely injured by him. And the injuries had left him paralyzed from the waist down. He had asked Wally West to use a time-traveling device called the Cosmic Treadmill that was in the Flash Museum to prevent this from occurring, but Wally West refused, saying that he couldn't risk damaging the time stream. So we're kind of just picking up the threads here. So we're gonna just kind of start here with his origin. I just wanted to show the cover. It's by Scott Collins, who's a very, very cool artist. He is a clean artist. So what I mean by clean, and I'll show you here, It's not a lot of blacks, what I would normally call an ink slinger. So if you take a look at his art, it's clean. Just enough to tell the information. Very similar to Mike Allred, if you're familiar with Mike Allred. During he does the Madman series, has done some for Marvel. He done X Force, did Silver Surfer with writer Dan Slott. So it's very similar to how um, he's one of the ones. So we sort of starts in here. Geoff Johns is an amazing writer. He is known for a lot of long. He doesn't just sit there for just 5, 6 issues and just tell. He tells stories that last several issues. He had an extremely long run. I think of 5, 6 years in Green Lantern. Just amazing. He had a very lengthy run here on the Flash. Like I said, we're about in the middle. So he is a profiler, kind of like a CSI type of person, and he's in the hospital now, kind of reminiscing and remembering, um, and he's trying to um, remember when he was trying to activate that cosmic treadmill, and this is told in the perspective of Hunter Solomon. Very something that is common during the 2000s is double page spreads. I do not like them very much. I think that it's a waste of real estate. There's not really a lot of drawing that is done. I mean, you're wasting 2 pages. But you know, these companies, Marvel and DC, started allowing, and it became very, very common during this era to have these double page spreads here. So, um, he had asked, like I said, he had asked the Flash for help, but the Flash, of course, refused. And Scott Collins, like I said, look at this, just very clean, not a lot of blacks. So he recalls, growing up alone. His parents wouldn't speak to each other. Um, just very quiet, and he's very awkward. He came he came home one day and saw the police surrounding the place, and it turned out that his father was a serial killer, and there were a few girls that were buried in the backyard, and the dad, of course, marries the or buries an axe into the back of his ex-wife, and he ends up getting killed by the police. So he decides he wants to be a profiler because he wants to know how criminals do this. Real quick here before we turn the page. I love the use of yellow, a little bit different shades of yellow, but yellow nonetheless. Again, look at the clean art line. Scott Collins just very clean. Sometimes a little too clean. Sometimes I think you need a little bit of the black to really separate the image. But if you have a good colorist, like here, they're flat colors. But if you're gonna have a clean line like this, sometimes you kind of need a colorist to kind of give it a little bit more detail. But I mean, this works perfectly. I mean, if you saw this in black and white, quite that you'd be able to tell. So he, like I said, he wants to kind of stop criminals. Psychology. Um, he loved athletics. He met this uh, the love of his life, a woman named Ashley. So you already know that this is going to turn into a tragic story because it's a supervillain origin. You can't have, supervillains normally don't have a happy life. Something always happens to drive them to commit, what they do. Ashley becomes is his future wife. He meets her father here to get married, and so you already see here that something horrible would happen a week later. So supervillain origins. Everyone has one. So he's calling for his nurse because he spilled the water. He's thirsty. So in comic book language, how do you show someone's thirsty? Just kind of like that. Very clean lines. He hears a hum and knows that something's wrong. So we go back um to his origin here, and they talk about Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash. If you are familiar again with the TV show, he is Flash's primary villain. One of the things Geoff Johns did is didn't bring him right away. Um, he elevated everybody before he brought in the Reverse Flash. I mean, like I said, it's been at least 2 years since he's been on the run, and like I said, he elevated everybody. He didn't just um, go in directly to bring you um, Zoom. So he was remembering the original Reverse Flash. He remembers a case where Barry Allen had snapped his neck because he had almost hurt his fiance, and he wants to know if it's okay to kill. Um, it's one of the things that heroes, for the most part, you want your heroes to be heroic. The Flash, of course, goes to a trial and he's found not guilty. At the time, this Flash would have been Barry Allen, so it would not have been Wally West. Um, as I had told you, during the crisis on Infinite Earth, Allen sacrificed himself to for everyone. So did heroic things. He remembers when Wally West then became the Flash. So Wally West, by the way, is a public superhero, meaning everyone knows who he is. He does not have a secret identity. Everyone knows that his identity. He decides to follow in Ashley's father's footsteps and become like a profiler. And they were after a killer named the Clown. I love how simple some of these character names are. And he had already killed several people, so they were trying to go after him. So after they find him, he profiles him and says that they don't have to wait for SWAT because he won't have a gun, and he says trust me, he won't be armed. So of course they're going, let's go in. So that you can't have a supervillain origin if bad things don't happen. So he was wrong. His father-in-law was killed. He was shot in the leg, which is why he was walking with a cane before the accident. So he was walking with a cane before the accident with the Gorilla Grodd. His wife shoots the clown, but her dad is dead, blames him for his death. She files for divorce, and he goes to Keystone to help with all the rogues, all the bad guys that Keystone has. Keystone is like DC's answer to St. Louis. Keystone's not a real city. It's a fake city like Metropolis, like Gotham City. There are a lot. DC doesn't, unlike Marvel, DC just uses fake names for cities, and this is supposed to be like a Kansas City slash St. Louis type. So he's noticing now that the water that fell still hasn't fallen, so something's up. So he notices he can walk. He's going out, and it's very hard in a comic book. So it's very it's difficult to show people are still. So it's difficult to show that he's moving, but nobody else is moving. So you do have to use a little bit of um. He's noticing the clock here. You have to use cues like the character explaining to you that nobody's moving or things like that because comic books unlike TV and movies it doesn't move so everyone is actually still so they they kind of have to explain to you that time is not moving. He is moving fast or not moving fast actually. He's moving normal but seems to have like an effect on time, grabbing this poor little fly here and realizes that that treadmill that he was using has given him power and he's in the speed force. So he realizes he's been given a gift and he's going to help the Flash be a better place. So he decides that he is actually going to be a hero, but the way he's going to be a hero, and here's where he decides to call himself Zoom. So we go here and real quick before I tell you how he kind of goes about it, look at this amazing Scott Collins. So one of the difference between Reverse Flash, look at the eyes. So that's how you know who's Zoom and who's the Reverse Flash. The Reverse Flash really has a Flash costume that is completely set. You can even see the eyes and stuff here. He's got those little red eyes through those sort of goggle things. So this is the end of the issue. But one of the things I was gonna tell you is that he is deciding that he's gonna help the Flash be a better Flash by just doing despicable things because he thinks that if you break someone, you can rebuild them as a better hero. So this is Blitz Part 1. It's the origin of Zoom and a great story. All of Geoff Johns' run in The Flash is worth getting. It's very cool. Several volumes, you can collect them on trade. I actually have each issue separately. I bought them when they first came out. So, hope you enjoyed it. Like, follow, subscribe.